Are you a businesswoman who is finding it challenging to get your ideas across and make a point? Welcome to Speakers Who Get Results with Elizabeth Backman, a podcast dedicated to helping women get the visibility they want, whether making a speech or talking in a meeting. Every week, get valuable lessons from Elizabeth or learn from her roundtable conversations with experts and speakers on how to make a difference, not just a point. On to the show with your host, Elizabeth Backman.
Hello and welcome to Speakers Who Get Results. I'm Elizabeth Backman, your host, and this is the podcast where we interview experts from around the world on how you can get better results when you're making a presentation, and about the leadership and being the kind of person who steps forward and says, yes, I do have something to say. Because all that is behind presentation. You've got to have something to say and you've got to have a reason to do it. So I am so excited. Today is my 50th podcast since I started this, and I get to have one of my very first guests back for a repeat performance, Laura Gisborne. Welcome to Speakers Who Get Results.
Thank you, Elizabeth. It's so great to be with you. I'm deeply honored to be your 50th episode.
I'm just so happy. I'm so glad I could get you. I could get on your schedule. Yay! Because let me say a little bit something about Laura. And actually, before I do that, I should say, if you're enjoying this, please follow us on YouTube. Come and follow us on YouTube. You can hear us on any of your favorite podcast apps. And I invite you to go to our free assessment. It only takes 4 minutes. And that's where you can see where you are strong in presentation skills and where you might need a little support. The link is speakforresultsquiz.com. That's speakforresultsquiz.com. So Laura, let me just do the official bio here, which is Laura Gisborne is a highly successful business expert with over 25 years experience. From structuring and selling small boutique businesses to owning a multi-million-dollar wine and real estate empire, Laura has owned 9 businesses, her first when she was only 23 years old. Laura, when I think of who I was when I was at 23, I am just, my mind boggles. On the other hand, you're kind of sure you know everything at 23, so maybe it's not that scary. Anyway, she's an internationally recognized speaker and serves as a business growth strategist for leaders in both the private and nonprofit sectors. The innovative business model of her company, Limitless Women, exemplifies that companies can be both profitable and purposeful. To date, the Limitless Women community has raised over $400,000 for charities. Though through their initiatives, thousands of women and children are receiving regular contributions in multiple countries across 5 continents. She's also done this close to home by serving as guardian ad litem for foster children through CASA, Parent Education Coordinator for Family Outreach, a board member for Habitat for Humanity, the New Peaks Foundation, and she's on the business engagement team of Pachamama Alliance. She's also the author of the books, Stop Spinning, Move from Surviving to Thriving, and Limitless Women. She's been featured as a guest expert in both CBS and ABC, as well as the national hit show, The List. So, Laura, I'm so glad to have you back. Seems just right to have you for the 50th episode.
My pleasure to be with you.
Yeah. So I will say to anybody who's listening, be sure, we'll put a link in the show notes, but be sure to listen to my first interview with Laura, which was really about leadership and qualities that a leader needs to have. We recorded that on January 2nd, 2020, and a few things have happened since then.
One or two.
Two. So I'd like to ask you first, what have you seen over the past, we're recording this at the end of October, we'll be broadcasting it the beginning of December. So it's been almost a year. What have you seen in your business and what have you seen with your clients in the chaos of 2020?
Well, it's been an interesting, fascinating adventure, right, Elizabeth? And what I've seen is that now, probably, I'm closer to 30 years of entrepreneurship at this point, right? We probably need to update the bio. Um, this year, what I've seen is the power of those who did not pivot, but instead went narrow and deep. And we've got clients whose businesses are up exponentially, 50%, 100%, like really numbers that would seem surreal in other circumstances. And I think part of that has to do with the focus.
Mm-hmm.
For those of us who historically have built our business speaking, traveling, right, going other places, what's available when you kind of have this opportunity to be at home and to be doing what you and I are doing now, meeting virtually while you're in Europe, I'm here in the United States. It's very exciting that we're able to do that. And embracing moving forward in business with what we're here to do, with what our legacy work is, with what our message really is all about, creating impact in the world. And I love your tagline, when you want to make a difference, not just a point. So I've seen it be a great opportunity. And I've also been really aware and cognizant that there are many who it has not been a great time for, right? It's been really, really tough for many people. So those of us that are committed to using our businesses to give back to others, we've had more of an opportunity this year than probably in decades to really be of service and impact and use our vehicles to make the journey easier for those who are struggling.
That brings up two questions. But first of all, let me ask you, talk a little bit, please, about going narrow and deep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when COVID first came out, because of the first wave of the conversation, if you would, in business development was, okay, it's time to pivot and grab this next wave. And I just, in my prayers and meditations, the messages that I was receiving was, no, that's not the way to go. The way to go is, we have a mature audience. And so the majority of our women are women who have been on a journey to get them to this place, right? Where they have a message, where they have an opportunity to serve with everything they've learned. And that doesn't shift and change just because we have a world catastrophe. And it's not our first world catastrophe, right? When I look at my husband and I looking at, we got married the night before Y2K. We're like, oh, is the world going to be here when we wake up in the morning, right?
Yes, right, yeah.
And we've done real estate development for many years. And so, 2008 happened and that there was that going on. And then there's been a various of things, obviously 9/11, there's been different things that have happened over the course of my business career. And those things happen, right? Because life happens. So how we choose to approach that, I think when we ground more in what we're here to share about, when we actually bring a deeper level of service, a more present, more conscious conversation to our unique spin on the wheel, our piece of the puzzle of service, the world moves a lot faster for us.
So Laura, could you talk a little bit more about going narrow? Mm-hmm. What do you mean by that?
Yeah. So all businesses provide a solution to someone's problem or their desire. And when we look at all the things we could be doing in business, what I find is that businesses that are thriving are actually have very simple business models. They're very clear on who they serve, what the challenge is that they're here to help solve, and then how they uniquely provide a solution. It's a 1, 2, 3 formula. When I see an organization that's struggling, often it's lost sight of where their lane is. We call it staying in your lane, right?
Yes.
So going narrow and deep is just another variation on that theme of staying in your lane. Who is it you're here to serve? What's the struggle that they have? And how are you uniquely designed to serve them? There's all these things you could be doing. There's all these problems you could be solving. But when you actually go narrow and deep, you have the opportunity to be magnetic to the ideal clients that you're here to serve, whether that be an audience that you're here to speak to, or an individual client you're here to serve, or in our world, a charity that you're here to help scale. Just become magnetic to them.
Yeah, it's basically not being all things to all people and trusting that that'll be okay. which
Yeah,
is often a challenge. See, people say,
sure.
"Oh no, but if I'm not everything to everybody, I'll miss people." But then that means nobody knows how to refer you, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes,
Absolutely.
indeed. Um, so, talking about the charities, this is my second question.
Mhm.
Yes, we're all told it's good for the soul to donate and all of that. And, we should be tithing, doing charitable things. Why? Why should we?
Elizabeth, it makes me think about when my children were little. And, my son would say to me, my sister called me a pink elephant. Now, that wasn't exactly what she said, but she said something silly, right?
Hmm.
I said, are you a pink elephant? He said, of course not. I said, great, then why are you upset about this? Who can you help today? Where can you get out of your own way? Where can you stop being obsessed with this conversation that's not helping you move forward?
Hmm.
And share a little bit of your goodies. Who's at school that you could give a kind word to? Is there something you could do to help your teacher? And I have to tell you that my children as adults are amazing leaders. And part of it comes from this tenet of service. Whenever we get into the who am I to do this, or I'm not ready, or someday I'm going to be good enough, all of this is directly related to something that's going on inside of us that I call the poverty consciousness. What
Hmm.
happens in the process of serving others is that we get out of our own way. We actually get the opportunity to see that we are greater than we are experiencing ourselves to be in this moment. And by being of service to another, we become expanded. It's kind of the core premise of our work that giving causes growing. Now, you could do it for that reason. You can also do it because you can. And there's something beyond self actualization that happens when we actually see what we're capable of. And so I think, there's lots of reasons to give.
It's a way of doing direct service that doesn't necessarily, it pays you back in intangible ways.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually makes me think about rule number one of any presentation is to make it about them.
Yes.
And I could break that down into all sorts of tools and techniques for making good presentations. But really, it's about delivering a message that you that is serving them,
Yeah.
that you have to believe in. Talk a little bit, if you would please, about what you're doing with the Pachamama Alliance. That's a very exciting group. And tell us what they do for those who haven't heard of it.
Of course. And so let me say one more thing that was super helpful that I believe you might have taught me, Elizabeth, back in the day when I was just getting started as a speaker. You're getting to give a talk, right? So the idea of like, how am I going to be good enough? What's going on with my voice today because I have allergies? That's okay. You're just going to give your talk.
I love what you said about being able to give a talk, and that indeed that it is every time you do a presentation, whether it's within a company or it's to promote a service or a practice or an idea, it's a gift to your audience.
Yes.
And that's how you get out of the I'm not good enough head, is
100%.
to think about how are you serving the others. So
Yes.
tell us about the Pachamama Alliance. This is very exciting.
Yeah, so Pachamama Alliance was co-founded by Lynn Twist and her husband Bill and John Perkins, and I think they're at 22 years old at this point. And it is an organization that's deeply committed to social justice. So the work that they're doing in the world, that's not a new mission for them, is kind of fascinating in today's environment, right? Where we've been really struggling in the United States of bringing awareness to systems that no longer serve, and how those of us that are born into privilege often are unaware of what's happening around us, right? And what it's like for others. And so I really, I love the work that they do there. They also are devout, I know that's a big, powerful word, but devout activists in the protection of the planet and the headwaters of the Amazon. And so that encompasses not only the environment, but also the indigenous people who live there and who are the kind of the guardians of that area. And so I got involved with them, I'm going to say in 2015. So when I started working with them, and we've been blessed to have Lynn come and speak several times at our Limitless Women conference, and to really bring her leadership, because this isn't her first rodeo. She was one of the founders of the Hunger Project in the 1970s. And so she's really been a lifetime activist and role model for those of us that are committed to giving back because we can. So I'm very grateful to have them in my life.
And the other thing about giving back is if you don't feel like you have cash, you probably have more cash than somebody else, but also you can give time.
100%.
And you can
100%.
give time to people. And the good thing about doing it through an organization is they will remind you. Because I don't know about you, but it's all too easy for me to just spend my time hunkered down behind my computer working on this, that, and the other, and forget that, oh yes, I had that appointment to go serve lunch at the homeless shelter, things like that, which can't do that one anymore. So now I have to donate in other ways. But also, yeah.
You do what you can when you can. And I'll just tell you this, because another woman who nobody who's listening to this knows, I don't think, is who was my babysitter, who was really one of my spiritual mothers in this world. And she is now 79 years old. She'll be 80 January 31st. And she gets up every morning at 6 a.m., goes to her church and puts together meals for families that, with foods that have been donated in government funding. And they've worked with restaurants, but basically then somebody else passes them out, because with COVID, it's not safe for her to be doing that, but she can get up and do the compilation part, if you will, right? So, so the piece around what we have to give is often not related to money. It's often related to our time, and each of us has special talents, right? So using those in a way to serve in any capacity we can is really a blessing.
So does mentoring come in there in terms of giving and serving?
Well, I can't see how it works for others, Elizabeth. I can tell you that I grew up in a family with a tremendous amount of violence and abuse, and my parents were gone much of the time. And I'm really clear that Barbara took care of me without being paid many, many, many times over the course of the years. And there was
Barbara's your babysitter, right?
Yes. And there was an example that she set for me, and she's a devout Christian. And so there was a lot of stuff that was being laid in the groundwork of who I am today as a leader. There were also other women when I was in my early 20s, and I was in a domestic violence relationship, and I thought that was normal, right? There were other women who saw me, who kind of raised their hand and said, come here, it doesn't have to be that way. I think there's a great deal of impact in those experiences for me as an individual that have led me to use my life today to be in an organization that's philanthropy first, because those women changed the trajectory of my life and therefore the lives of the people around me and my family. I feel excited to be able to pay forward some of the gifts that I've been given. And I think that that's the place that, again, it's pretty exciting. Elizabeth, it's pretty exciting to wake up and be me and be in a position where when you and I get off this call, I get to be in a conversation with one of the founders of another nonprofit that we're super excited about, that we raise funds for every year, based in Uganda. This is the whole thing, like this whole opportunity that I get to use my experiences to be of service to others is, it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So we're talking about a legacy.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that we can think of in terms of our legacy, whether we're recognized or not, right?
Absolutely.
So if we're still working our way up the corporate ladder, or trying to do this or trying to do that, how can we find the time, the energy, the space, or make the time, the energy, the space to truly serve somebody that we maybe don't know?
Yeah, well, I would encourage everyone to start where you are And, this is the thing. We're humans. We're all doing the best we can. And if we get bombarded constantly with negativity and with all that's not working, that's going to continue to show up as our experience. If we choose instead to have a daily practice of grounding and gratitude, and if it feels right for you, meditation or prayer, where you really check in and you decide today is the day. And, I'm a Christian, so this is going to come out. Today is the day the Lord has blessed me with. Now, how do I choose to be a good steward of this gift? I woke up this morning. I have a roof over my head. I have an opportunity for work. I have an opportunity to serve. What would you have me do? Or what is aligned with what I believe is important? And when you start from that place, I find that there's a whole lot less distraction. There's a whole lot less fear and overwhelm because we're aligned with what we're choosing instead of being at the mercy of what's happening around us. So I would say that anyone who gets up and says, hey, where may I be of service today? It can be something as simple as a smile to a stranger through the mask, right? We've got our COVID mask on. You can see you're smiling because your eyes are smiling, right? You can do that. It can be a kind word. It can be opening the door for someone. It can be doing a random act of kindness for someone in your home that you weren't, they weren't expecting. It's these little ways of being in generosity and presence that will actually change your level of joy and happiness in your life.
This actually makes me think that we're going to be publishing this right after Thanksgiving. So thinking about, Thanksgiving for Americans at least is about stopping to give thanks. But I love the way you say of stopping to give thanks every day.
Every day.
Every day. And you start that.
Well, and here's what I hear all the time, Elizabeth. The number one challenge, if you will, for my ideal client, for my number one, for my who. I work with women business owners who are really committed to using their profits for purpose and giving back. But most of them, almost all of them, at some point hit a wall and they feel overwhelmed. They feel like there's too much to do. They feel like, someday I'm going to get there instead of really being grounded in the presence. And I have to tell you that this practice of daily grounding, of daily prayer, of daily meditation is a way to really put on, almost, I don't want to use the word armor because it sounds almost masculine and I don't mean it that way, but to put on your strengthening, to put on your remembering of who you are and what you're here to do so that you're feeling strong and grounded and overwhelm doesn't come in because you're so clear on your purpose.
I love that. That's a wonderful thing to say. And just the daily practice of gratitude and grounding gives you a better place to start from. And it also means that you are acting instead of reacting.
Yes,
instead of reacting to everything that comes in, that you're actually figuring out who you are and what do you want to do and who do you want to be.
Yeah. The best I've heard that is responding versus reacting. And I thought that really,
I like that.
You do respond, right? That life presents, and how do we dance with that? How do we dance with what is inevitable?
And, responding comes from, related to the word ponder and to think instead of to act. So it will tell us to think rather than act. Laura Gisborne, I just love you. I'm just so happy to know you and be your friend and have you as my friend. So honored that I could have you as my special 50th anniversary guest and our 50th podcast guest. And do you have one thought to leave us with?
Always. It always comes back to the same one for me, Elizabeth, which is compassion. More compassion for ourselves. We're doing the best we can. Life is happening. How we choose to dance with that is part of the journey, right? It's what we're here to do and to learn. I believe if we're alive and breathing, God's not done with us. There's more for us to experience and learn and develop. So as we're growing together and choosing to be in this dance of life in this lifetime, what does it look like for us to do it in a way that is kinder, a little more gentle, a little more patient, and understanding that, there's divine timing. Things are unfolding. You're well. Remember that you've got this, that Rome wasn't built in a day, and that you're doing the best you can each day. So just be kind to yourself in the process.
Thank you. Thank you, Laura Gisborne, so much for having been on Strategic Speaking for Results. I urge you to go back and listen to the first episode I did with her. You could find that on YouTube or on elizabethbachman.com/podcast. Thank you very much for joining us, everybody. There will be more. We're not stopping at 50. So we're very excited to have you, Laura, and have all of you listening. Please, if you enjoyed this, go to YouTube and follow us on YouTube. Subscribe. Tell your friends. And if you're interested how you can be a better presenter, take our free assessment at www.speakforresultsquiz.com. This has been Elizabeth Backman, and I'll see you on the next one.
We have just concluded another great episode of Speakers Who Get Results with your host, Elizabeth Backman. If you got value from today's episode, please feel free to share us with your friends and colleagues. You may also visit elizabethbachman.com for additional resources. Be sure to tune in every week for new episodes, and thanks for tuning in.